Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Moving on to Section 8, Administrative Services, 8.1. Probably the main reason we're here tonight is this is the resolution for the general obligation bond election. The recommended action is that the board approve resolution number 022316A, authorizing the district to request the register recorder and the county clerk of the County of Los Angeles to call an election authorizing general obligation bonds of the district in consolidation with the general election scheduled for June 7, 2016.
So moved.
Trustee Archuleta.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Zia. Discussion, comments?
I have a comment.
Trustee
President.
Zia.
I just wanted to add my name to the long list of individuals who spoke tonight and have expressed their support previously, and want to express my support for going out to the voters this year to seek approval of a new construction bond for the Long Beach Community College District. We need to stay ahead of the curve if we are going to continue to successfully serve the ongoing needs and evolving needs of our students, faculty, employees, and community. I would also like to encourage my colleagues to move forward in the near future and have a strong local hire and veterans preference components in the new bond so we can ensure that the construction bond helps to create jobs for our local residents and the financial benefits stay in our community. And lastly, I want to see, and I'm sure we're going to have this and have a strong oversight component of our bond. And I want to thank our staff in moving for their persistence in moving this one forward. It's definitely a win-win for our college district, students, and community. And I look forward to supporting this item and voting yes tonight.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Jeff? Trustee Kellogg.
Considering that I look back in 2002 when I was elected to this board, one of the things I noticed first was that this college had not changed much physically from when I was a student here, and that's great if you're into preservation of buildings, but these buildings, many of which, they weren't viewed that way as historical monuments, they were just viewed as old buildings. And I find it ironic is that at the time, the incumbent was opposed to the bond, and I ran against him, which is interesting. I was in favor of the bond at the time, and most people who know my background, bonds it's debt, it's future debt, and you always worry about that, about the impact on your residents. But I have to tell you that when we looked at it back then, we looked at it the second, now we're doing it again. The one thing I've always been impressed with is this has never been, it's been referred to as sometimes blank checks, black holes, but everyone knows that this bond money, and the reason why we've been successful is that we really have a proven track record. We've had all the oversight, the accountability, the internal, the external audits, and we really have done a good job representing the community and making sure their tax dollars are properly spent. So I really believe that I'm optimistic about this one passing as well, because we have earned that trust of residents with our past efforts, and that's to commend a lot of people here in this room who's done a lot of work over the course of time. A lot of people spoke, and I appreciate the fact they did. They brought up a lot of great things as well, one of which, though, I will always say, is, again, this is the bond, not for salaries, not for benefits. It really is bricks and mortar and everything associated with it. That's one reason why people, they really have been supportive, but they've also been supportive because the great love for this college. This is not a Cal State University located in Long Beach. This is Long Beach City College, and the people of this city have always supported this college and been very favorable towards this college, and they've proven that by their votes in the past, and I really look forward to them doing it again. One person did talk about finishing the job. Absolutely correct. Anytime you want to really make a project, and there are additional projects that need to be done. Obviously, that's why we're doing this. To stop and start, and well, let's do this in a few more years perhaps, that is one of the worst things you can do in any type of construction project of this magnitude, because when you stop, you essentially shut everything down, that takes time and energy, then you start it back up because the needs are there. So I'm pleased that we are going to, as somebody did mention there, I think it was one of our students, that to finish the job, don't stop. And that's what we're going to do. At least I hope we're given the opportunity, and obviously very supportive of it. The good facilities, they do benefit everyone. They have done so in the past. I have to tell you about the pride. I don't know how all you feel, but it is something to go down Carson or Pacific Coast Highway and to see our college. And actually I slow down and look at it. It is beautiful. The residents have great pride in this college, and the facilities really do have an impact on, not just cosmetically, but it really does make an impact on the students. And I look forward to continuing that in the future. So again, asking the residents to do this, that is never easy, but they've always come through, and I hope they do again, because again, I believe they feel very confident in what we've done in the past, and we have a track record. So we're going to continue to deliver this college, the best facilities for our students and everyone associated with the college. So it's not going to be easy, but as people come before us, it really is going to be exciting to hopefully pass this and finish the job. And so when I started in my career here in 2002 as a member of the board, it really was one of those goals I wanted to see, this physical change of this campus to where it's a facility that people can really learn and help student success. There was a mention about a bond, the bond in November. That's a statewide bond that, of course, if it does pass, that will be beneficial for matching funds. But that list is shared, and that list is hundreds of projects already as they're waiting for it. If we waited for the state and that bond, we probably would never be where we are today with our facilities. So again, it's our thanks to the local residents who supported it. And I believe they're going to support it again because they trust what we've done, and we've done a great job, and we're going to continue to do a great job. And I really look forward to the June ballot, and hopefully just continue what we see right here. We should take great pride in this college in more ways than one, but one of which is the great job we've done and what it looks like today. And it's a beautiful campus, and it's a beautiful college campus that we can all be proud of. So obviously I'm very supportive and thankful for the residents and everyone that's been involved in the bond previously, and we're going to continue that, hopefully, with the passage of this bond. Thank you, President Otto.
Trustee Baxter.
Yes, some of you may have thought that I was against the bond because I was asking such detailed questions, but the reason why I was asking is that I want to ensure that we have a success, and we need to make sure that the voters are favorable. And I have to tell you, and I've said this a number of times, the one thing anybody ever says to me is how wonderful the college looks. Nobody has ever said, how much did it cost? They've always said, oh my goodness, the college looks fantastic. And so I obviously am voting yes because I believe, just like Jeff said, we have to finish this while the momentum is going. And I just don't want anyone to think that I'm against the bond. I'm just being careful.
Trustee Archuleta.
Yes. Well, I too want to echo the sentiments that have already been mentioned. I think it's wonderful that we are looking at the future and considering the future, and I think that this is what bond measures are about, really looking at the future. And I think our students said it best. They're not going to be here, but they have the wisdom and the foresight to know that whatever we do today is going to benefit our students in the future. And actually, if you talk about increasing enrollment, that is one of the most important things that we can do to increase enrollment, is to have facilities and to have the classrooms and the labs that are appealing to the students. No one wants to go into an institution where everything is broken down, where things don't function. And so, again, if we listen to the wisdom of the students, we are moving in the right direction. So I am in complete support of the bond and will do whatever I can to make sure that it is successful and it comes to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Archuleta. Long Beach voters have been very generous over the last 14 years, and we've made many improvements to our almost 90-year-old college. This is because we provide an affordable alternative to the skyrocketing costs of a higher education in this country. And if you look at the demographics of our students, they need a place like Long Beach City College to get started so that they can achieve their educational goals. We have transformed this college both as a physical plant, but also in the way we look at education and what it is that we do for our students. We do things effectively, efficiently, and every day we get up and work to make that better. These additional funds that we are seeking will allow us to improve educational resources for veterans and better prepare them for good-paying jobs, repair deteriorating gas, electrical, and sewer lines and leaky roofs that we have here, expand partnerships with area employers to fill local job training and placement needs, meet earthquake safety standards, upgrade science, engineering, and technology classrooms and labs, and better prepare students to transfer to four-year institutions and to meet their educational goals. Everybody in Long Beach, and you saw it on the survey, loves Long Beach City College. They either went here themselves or had somebody in their family go here, and as a result, there's a very special relationship from the people in this community with this institution, and we want everybody to feel this way. Perhaps the most touching thing that I heard in the testimony that we received from people in the audience earlier was this two students that came forward and said, I'm having great experiences in these modern classrooms. And what they were really saying, I think, was that education is different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We need the technology to let our students learn the way that they learn best. And if we pass this bond, they will be able to do this. And so I go into this process, which is going to last us about 6 months, with a lot of enthusiasm, with a deep-seated feeling that the city of Long Beach and its surrounding communities will come together to do what will allow us to complete the work that we've started in making this the premier institution, educational institution in Long Beach. And with that, I too support this bond measure. Any other comments? Let's have a roll call vote.
One last comment.
Okay.
I would encourage us to go and do a visit to the Cisco facility so that we can see what the future classroom looks like. It's very impressive. I mean, it would be awesome to have those type of classrooms here at Long Beach City College.
Yeah, we have a motion.
Oh, okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
And student trustee Alejandro Lomelli, an advisory vote.
I'd give my advisory vote as aye.
Thank you very much. Passes unanimously, and we're off to the polls. Thanks very much. Let the campaign begin. Right.
Yes.
So, agenda item 8.2, our 2015-16 mid-year budget performance report, presumed by Vice President Gable.
That's correct.
Yes, thank you.
I want Vice President Gable to realize that the fact that a lot of people are leaving the room has nothing to do with your report.
Thank you for that. Yes, I realize my reports aren't the highlight of the evening, but that's okay. You make me do it, so I do it.
I love your reports, Anne Marie. I must be the what for you.
Okay, so what we have for in front of you tonight is our mid-year budget performance report. So this is reflecting what our current budget is as of December 31st, 2015, as well as the revenues that have been received and the expenditures that have been paid on a cash basis through December 31st of 2015, and then our projections of where we think we're going to end the year. So walking the board through the mid-year budget performance report, you see there on page 1 This is the bulk of our revenues. I'm just going to highlight the major changes or the variance column, and that variance column represents the difference between the current budget and the projected year-end amounts. So looking at the state apportionment, which is about midway into the page there, you see that there's a subtotal where we're projecting that we're going to receive $110,372,000 in apportionment, and that is an increase from what we had in the adopted budget, which is the same as the current budget, of about $385,000. That increase is primarily due to a change in the mix of FTES, plus about 24 additional FTES. So if the board recalls, we get paid at different rates if it's a credit FTES or a non-credit FTES. So anytime you change that mix, it's going to change the dollar amount that you have coming in. But we are, at this point, right on target with our current year enrollment revenue, or apportionment revenue. I will say, though, that even though we're on target for our apportionment revenue, we are not on target for our FTES that we're generating. And you may ask, well, why are we still showing that our revenues are on target? That's because it's more than likely we're going to go into what's called stabilization, meaning that we aren't going to generate the FTES at the same level as we did in 14-15, but yet we won't be penalized in 15-16 on the revenue side. It's going to be very pertinent and important that in the 16-17 year, we bring up our FTES, and so that our FTES is equal to what we call our base FTES, or basically the 20,775 FTES that we generated in 14-15, we're going to have to generate in 16-17. If we don't, we will see a loss of funding in 16-17. The next line there, prior year adjustment, you see that we are projecting that we're going to receive just under $2 million, so $1,978,000 in prior year adjustment. And that is due to two different factors. So the first factor is that we amended our 320 report last fall, and we claimed 368 additional FTES for the 14-15 year so that we could capture the growth funding that was available for 14-15. And then the other item is that there is not going to be a deficit factor related to the 14-15 year. So those two factors combined is generating an additional $1.9 million revenue for the district. So moving on to page 2, this covers our local revenue, and you see there's not a whole lot of changes with our local revenue. At this point, we're projecting a slight decrease of about $13,000. So overall, if you look at the bottom there on page 2, we are projecting that we're going to receive $2,352,000 more revenue, and that is primarily due to the apportionment that I discussed previously. So moving into page 3, this is where we start looking at our expenditures and where we are projecting our expenditures to be. So the first block of expenditures there are our academic salaries. We are right on target with our academic salaries. So you can see there that we're projecting we're going to spend $49.9 million. Which is about $95,000 under what our budget is. For the classified salaries, again, we're projecting we're going to spend about $25.4 million on total classified salaries, which is a savings of $891,000, or projected savings at this point in time. And that is really related to vacancies that occur within the classified staff all throughout the year. So when we develop the budget, we're developing the budget assuming that the positions that have been approved will be filled for the entire fiscal year. As we know, the classified ranks turn over much more frequently than our faculty do. So, and then when we do have a vacancy, it takes sometimes 3 to 6 months before those positions can be filled, thus creating a budget savings for us. There at the bottom of page 3 are our benefits. And you may be asking, well, if we're having a savings in salaries, why don't we have a savings in benefits? So we're projecting that our benefits are going to cost us $30,659,000, which is about $1.8 million above our budget number. And the reason that is above is because we just recently underwent an actuarial study for our retiree benefits obligation for the district. And we're required to do that every 2 years. We went through that actuarial study, and within that actuarial study, they create what's called an annual required contribution in order for us to meet our obligation of our retiree health benefits into the future. That ARC, as we call it, increased substantially from where it was 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, our ARC was 2.7 million. Today, our ARC is 5.2 million for an increase of about $2.4 million. A couple reasons of why the ARC went up. Number one, we have 73 more employees than we had 2 years ago. And then the other thing is the investment return, or what they call the discount rate. The discount rate went down from 6% to 4.9%, which is reflective of what's been happening with the stock market in the last few years. So those two factors combined are really the main contributors to why our ARC went up and why you're seeing an increase in our benefits, even though we're projecting a savings in our salaries. So moving on to the next page, which is page 4. This shows our supplies and materials and our contract services and operating expenses. Again, at this point in time, it's too early to determine whether or not we're going to have savings or if we're going to overspend. The one area that you do see there on the instructional materials fee, a decrease of $22,000, that had a corresponding revenue decrease, and that's just because we're not receiving the instructional materials fees that are attached to the classes. And so you have a corresponding loss in revenue and thus a corresponding decrease in the expenditures. So then that takes us to page 5, where we see our total expenditures and other outgo. So overall, our total expenditures, we are projecting that we're going to spend about $132.5 million, which is an increase over our budgeted expenditures of about $768,000. Offsetting that with the revenue increase that we had brings us down to an operating deficit projected at $1,002,000, which is a change of about $1.6 million. So at this point in time, we're projecting that our ending fund balance will be $24.6 million at June 30th of 2016, which represents about an 18.5% ending fund balance. So with that, I will open it up to any questions that the board may have.
Trustee Zia?
Thank you, Vice President Gable. So I appreciate the update. I think and you explained this earlier. It appears that our projected revenue for the year is going to be strong, and expenditures aren't increasing much. So it seems like we're still good on our reserves with the 18% and 24 million. Really, 25 million isn't too shabby. So that's great. We're in good condition. But I wanted to ask about the counselor salary expenditures. Why are they down 18%, and the classified manager and supervisor salaries down by 6%?
Right, so the counselor salaries are down primarily because some of the counselors that we had approved to hire with unrestricted general fund monies, we have moved those over to SSSP funding. So since those were new positions that we hired, those counselor salaries are an eligible expenditure for SSSP, and so we've moved those over to that categorical program as an appropriate line item for that categorical program. So that's why you see the savings there on the counselor salary. I think your other question was related to the classified manager supervisor salaries. And again, that is just a function of having vacancies that had not been filled for the first 6 months. So the ones that we know we filled, we put that in, but then there are still a couple that have not been filled at this point in time.
So just to make sure I understand, so when we budget these head counts, and if there's a vacancy, and if it's not filled, we count it as savings, and we don't carry it over to the next year to fill the vacancy? Is that, am I understanding correctly?
Not when we're doing our projected year-end numbers, so we're trying to take and get as accurate as we can, a projection of where we're going to end the year. When we go to prepare the budget for 16-17, those vacant positions absolutely will be carried over into the 16-17 budget. It's not like you lose the position if you don't fill it. You still have the position, but it's just we want to project, if we're going to have a savings, and we know we're going to have a savings, we try to project that when we're doing our mid-year reports.
So arguably, it's not really a savings, it's just unfilled positions for the year, and because otherwise it'll
Right.
show up as an increase in the following year.
Right. It's a one-time savings for the current fiscal year.
I gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Other, Trustee Kellogg?
A question, because you brought up with the stabilization, and probably not right here, but an update on, because that is serious, and also it's becoming more and more common with a lot of the districts in the state. We have 2 years to get off of stabilization, or it has a huge impact on our finances. Sort of the roadmap, game plan of what we're going to do, and I believe it's going to roll into a little bit more into some other areas that we as a board may be having to set for some board goals here in the next 24 months, 12 months, because I mean, I make that observation, just that comment, and I'm sure you've already started the planning on how we get ourselves away from the stabilization, but it is something that it's done for a reason. I mean, but it's something that we have to aggressively move away from, or else it will have an impact on us financially. So I'm going to speculate that we're going to have some updates on what steps we're going to be doing to get ourselves away from this status.
I'll begin that answer, and I'll let Vice President Gable finish the answer on the mechanics. But to answer your question, stabilization is a tool that's available to all districts, and many districts utilize it throughout the ups and downs of the economy, the ups and downs of enrollment. Unfortunately, we are living in a system that primarily funds enrollment, and that's a conversation that Department of Finance and others are having as to how we move away from that mindset. Hopeful that over the next few years we will be successful at beginning that process. Nonetheless, in the near term, stabilization is a tool that allows a college to reset itself in terms of the efforts it's making to achieve its enrollment targets in a way that allows us to not erode the per student funding. And that's something we don't want to do. We don't want to erode per student funding. And so it allows us a chance to regain the student enrollment that we were using in the winter and the summer intersessions and focus it in the year that we're capturing enrollment from. We don't use it as often as some other districts. Last time we used it was probably about 7-8 years ago, somewhere around there. Some districts do this probably every 2 or 3 years. So it just depends on the nature of enrollment. And in LA County, as is the case in all of the major urban areas, enrollment is in decline for obvious reasons. We're seeing declines in K through 12 enrollment. We're seeing declines in the unemployment rate, which means that people are going back to work, which means that our students are probably taking less than full-time units, which decreases enrollment. Bottom line, and we will talk more about this later, it allows us to focus on student success efforts that will lead to improved enrollment, because if we can improve the statistic you saw earlier, students completing more than 30 units, students going full-time more, students persisting from fall to spring, that improves enrollment. So it gives us that opportunity. At the same time, as you mentioned, it does present urgency, and so I'm sure that urgency will be felt by the Office of Academic Affairs, and we will bring enrollment back to the target that it needs to be, as we have before. So I don't know, and we only have 1 year, so we don't have 2 years. Anything else, Anne Marie?